Hello, I'm APX Toycat, and one of the best things about Minecraft is its brilliant terrain generation, which all by itself can inspire you to build a beautiful home, or maybe do the exact opposite and make something you really shouldn't. I'll be honest, I'm much more drawn to that second category. I see something weird in Minecraft, and I wonder what would happen if you scaled it up. I've had this idea so many times now that I decided to hop into my very creative world and build some of these things to convince you why you shouldn't build them in survival, but also to show you exactly what they look like, because I'm so encouraged when I see random parts of the game. For example, signs. Everyone knows how signs work. You can write text on them, and it's really cool because now once you've placed a sign, you can re-edit that sign if you really want to, which is quite nice. However, if you crouch and try to place a sign, you can actually place another sign off your first one, and you can do this a near infinite number of times, as long as you don't do that right there. But interesting thing is you can place signs coming off other signs, coming off other signs, and you can do this to a near infinite level, and then if you want, you can then place sand on top of that. This makes no sense on a logical level, but I just wonder what would happen if you scaled this up, because right now it makes kind of a cascading effect and causes the sand to fall over the void. What if we did this to a very scaled up level and used not just one sign, but maybe more like 120? And so this is the plan. I'm going to place a sign starting in a quite high point of my world, let's say right over here, and then we're going to place another sign coming off that, and we're going to make a giant area filled with sand. And then we'll place signs coming off that sign going in a big pattern to get a lovely zigzag like this. This is where we could start placing some sand, sure, but I had a better idea. What if we then made a giant cube of sand by having a big collection of signs underneath it? I'm going to use bamboo signs right here, and I'm going to do it in a big spiral pattern like you can see, so that we'll eventually be able to see just how many signs are triggered off one single breakage point. This is going to be really handy because then it's going to create a big cascade that will go in a lovely spiral effect, causing a lot of sand to fall, not in one moment, but instead moments after each other. This should be a really fun effect that probably will break Minecraft Bedrock, but that is one of the beautiful things about trying it we kind of need to know. You might be wondering why I don't just use commands for this rather than painstakingly having to crouch down below each sign and then having to dismiss this menu, but actually I tried precisely that, and not only did it not work the first time, but the second time it caused all of my progress to go missing, which is why when it was complete and I thought I was going to have my big sand moment, instead I had this. No! I lost so much progress in that moment, and it has taught me that I am going to be very careful when using commands, and indeed I'm going to place the first layer of signs and sand manually. To be fair, it also taught me how cool the sign pattern looks when you build it in a spiral. It's not what you'd expect at all, but it's a very fun thing to look at, and so now we can place our sand on top of it, and assuming we don't get anything wrong, we'll be able to have this lovely sand layer as a base. And so now we can finish placing in all of the sand to have a big cube of sand which is floating over effectively nothing. Again, this makes no sense on any real level, but it also means that if any one of these signs break, all of the sand above it breaks, but also all of the signs connected to it break, which causes all of their sand to break, and so on and so forth. And all of that will be triggered by a single sign, which is right over here. That's right, this is the sign that starts it all, and I'm excited to see how it'll look after all of this has been placed. And now we finally have it, a giant cube of sand that is floating precariously above nothing, all of which will break the moment I hit this sign, and I will be doing that right after I show you that this exact same set of physics will work with lava and water, but in a slightly different way than you expect. Everyone knows that water meets lava, and it either makes obsidian or cobblestone, and so I was thinking, what if we placed a giant cube of lava and a giant cube of water next to each other? What would happen in the end result? Oh, look at that, by the way. As you get further away from the sand cube, it actually slowly starts to fade away. I'm going to be doing this, by the way, not just for a bit of recreation, but also because I have this big hole in my world, which I was hoping to fill with some terrain, and so I figured whatever was left behind by the lava and the water could perfectly fit right here. My plan here, by the way, is fairly simple. I'm going to place a giant hollow cube of glass above another giant hollow cube of glass, fill this one with water, fill this one with lava, and then remove both of the sets of glass at the same time. It does involve me being a little bit burnt, which is something we're just going to have to accept, but for now, that is a full cube of lava, and this is a full cube of water, which we can now finish up. As you can see, these two things are directly above each other with a nice 10-block gap in the middle just to keep things spaced out. Now, if I do this correctly, I should be able to remove all of the glass at one moment, and we'll get to see exactly what this looks like. If you're curious, by the way, how we're going to remove only the glass while keeping the water and the lava there, we can't just fill the area with air, we have to specifically fill the area with air and then replace glass. So air will only replace the glass in the space, and also we need to make this much higher, like 48 blocks. Let's go right now. Oh, there we go. Okay, so things are already happening. The lava is expanding seemingly faster than the water. The water's going downwards quickly, but the lava is going in very unexpected directions. Now what's going to happen is the lava is going to hit the water. I was kind of expecting the water to flow outward a bit more, but I guess the lack of land has stopped that. Now, this is the interesting moment. As you can see, stone is being created, and seemingly, that's kind of the end of it, actually. I assumed that more would happen, but I think I'm just making a giant stone pillar. Okay, as interesting as it is to see the lava not filling in precise layers all at once, but instead filling in kind of bit by bit, I think we've just created a giant stone pillar, something I'll confirm right now. It's even more interesting than I thought. All I actually made was a single slab of stone, which isn't even perfectly square, but does look kind of natural. So I think what you've got to do is have a much bigger water base than lava coming on top of it, right? Okay, new plan. We're going to place all of our water down, including some which is going on the land, and then we're just going to have a single block of lava go above it. We're going to see if that somehow has a better result. It honestly might achieve precisely nothing. I'm just kind of curious. Oh. Well, that isn't what I was expecting at all. Okay, I'll place a few more lava, because if you have a single block, they don't seem to spread. I don't understand what's happening here. I just know it's very fascinating to look at. But as you can see, 3x3 lava spreads. Eventually, will hit our water, and then when it does, starts to do some interesting things, creating some stone. The water below that stone is still a-okay, because there's a layer separating them, and the lava just seems to spread out from there. My whole experiment is starting to look a little bit flawed, so what I'm going to do, since I have all of this lava, which won't go away with commands anyway, I'm going to place a bunch of water on top of the lava, and see what happens when we do it that way around. So, yeah, we're going to do the exact same thing we just did, except using water instead of lava. And we're going to make sure that these come in at really weird angles, just to wait, I guess we're going to try a little bit closer, just to deliberately mess with how this goes together. I don't know what result it will make. I just know it's going to result in an interesting part of the world. And again, we have floating water, by the way. Okay, let's see what happens when my water contacts the flowing lava. Hey, there we go. It slowly starts to vanish and become a weird stream of cobblestone. Yeah, I guess that's about it, huh? This second idea is a great example of why you shouldn't try something like this in survival. I can't imagine how messy the cleanup for this would get, and I don't even understand how the physics behind any of this work. I just know that it's working in a way that hurts everything and everyone around it. However, that means we can go back to our first idea and finally hit that sign and see the big drop. I feel like after a failure, you always need a little bit of success to pick you up, and I'm sure my sand cube is going to be absolutely beautiful to watch, but there's only one way to find out. I'll be honest with you, I'm incredibly excited to see how this looks. Will it happen so quickly that it doesn't even make a perceivable difference on the cube? Or will the cube slowly turn into a spiral? I don't know, but let's find out. Oh, that is satisfying. Oh, that's even more satisfying. Oh my god, this is great. This is incredible to watch. That might be one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and better yet, it actually did make almost a cube on the ground. If you wanted to move a cube somewhere in a very efficient way, I would say, or very inefficient way perhaps, this is the way to do it. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen, and all I want to do is see it again, which is why, thankfully, I made a backup of the world just before this happened, and so if anyone does happen to ever look at this world, they'll be able to do that exact same cubeful for themselves. which I hope you do get to do one day, by the way. So my next idea here is fairly simple. Have you ever looked at an ocean monument and thought that it's got extremely long arms? I know, I think that every time I'm there, and so I have this big body of water that's basically sitting here doing nothing. Why don't I finally make my dreams a reality inside of it and make a monument? Well, first things first, we have to go grab an ocean monument from a world that doesn't have a magic border at the end, because that's going to severely limit me. Then, once I've found an ocean monument, I want to give myself a structure block, one of the very few items in the game which is not discoverable in the creative inventory, but instead has to be given via commands. Then we're going to go deep to the bottom of the ocean here and place one of these down, although I guess we'll do so from this corner just to be easy. And then, once we've got the structure block in place, I'm now able to copy and paste this tiny section of the ocean monument. Except, obviously, I need it to be much bigger, so we'll go for 50 on that side, we'll go for 35 on that side, and we'll go for 50 on this side, and see if that is a full ocean monument. It's very close to being one, huh? I think the ocean monument is almost exactly 59 blocks wide. It's a little bit less than 35 blocks tall, maybe 20. No, that's too short. 25, 27, there we go. So 27 blocks tall, and then on this side, I'm gonna guess that it's also 59. Did I guess correctly? Yes, I did. This is an ocean monument, and now we can save, oh, we can't save this. It's too big, I think. Never mind, all it was that I got wrong is I forgot to name it over here. So this is Ocean Structure My Monument. We can save this to disk, or we can save it to memory. I'm gonna save to disk just to be careful. And now I've got Ocean Monument saved in there for as long as I want, I think. And I can export that as well, apparently. Oh, that's incredibly interesting. I don't intend to do that, but I like that I can. So now we can take this ocean monument from this world. If you're curious, it is from last week's Seed Sunday. So over there, you can see, oh, look, there you can see. It's the village that, yeah, I liked so much, I even made a short from. And now we're gonna take this all the way back. Okay, so I have no idea what has gone wrong here, but instead of loading what I'm expecting it to, it seems to look like this. But let's just hit load anyway, and see if that magically, oh, there we go. Whoa, that was cool, huh? And so now we look in person, and there is an ocean monument that seems to have misunderstood the assignment with regards to where it wanted to be placed. But the idea is solid, okay? All I have to do now is look at the monument and realize that this block right here is probably like 6 or 7 blocks off the surface, so we just move that down, and then also realize that I wanted it over there, which is along the white axis. I don't know what that's going to mean in this case, but let's see what we can do. We're going to offset the structure by 9 blocks and then load in another one. Looks like this. Wow, and just like that, although the top of the ocean monument remains, I have otherwise fixed it. Oh god, we've got a second outer garden over here. Also a problem, but although that remains, the idea is fairly solid, and now all I have to do is remove all of this water, and it will be great. What I'm also going to do now is offset this 50 blocks on the x-axis, solely so that if this all goes to plan, okay, as you can see it vaguely did, we now have all of this space that we need, which I'm going to be using to make the monument. In fact, it's mostly already done some of that job for me, as you can see, but it kind of just looks like 2 ocean monuments together. I want to just have the second half of this monument repeat itself over and over and over again, and so that is my plan. So now that we know the size of this is 21 blocks on the x-axis, this is making no sense to some people, but we'll save that, and then we'll load it in, hopefully, offset by 20 blocks on the x. So over there, we... Actually, no, a little bit less than 20, because we want to do this like 10 blocks, first of all, and then we replace that with our thing, longer legs. Then we do 20 blocks, we replace it, longer legs. And we're going to do this all the way till the old monument is removed. Maybe? We'll see what it looks like when we're done. We're kind of seeing this 10 blocks at a time. This is a weird way to do stuff in Minecraft, but the end result is hopefully going to be beautiful. Okay, there we go. Has it succeeded, or have I made a monstrosity? Let's find out together. Oh, we accidentally left the structure blocks included here. Let's drag it on a little bit. It looks good from what I can see from the right, but what does it look like overall? It looks like this. Oh, it's worked! Okay, so besides the mess of blocks over here, I have made an ocean monument. Oh, with a lot of extra water too. Okay, one sec. Okay, I ruined some terrain I wasn't exactly expecting to, but I think I have now built myself an ocean monument, and that is it. Honestly, this is such a fun looking thing. We could make this go much further if we wanted to into the mountain using the exact same principle, and honestly, the fact that it tiles so well is really, really cool in my opinion. However, this is just one of my 12 things you shouldn't make. I want to make one of these so bad in survival. I just know when it comes to Elder Guardians and building, you really don't want to be involved in that. Speaking of things you don't want to be involved in, this whole channel, right? But the next idea is one that kind of comes from my love of the Nether. I have a very silly Nether in this world. I love my Nether because you enter it via this giant cube, but then because the Nether is scaled down 8:1, when you get into the Nether, it looks more like this tiny cube right here, which I enjoy that a lot. I also have myself a Nether village, but otherwise the Nether is pretty flat here. It's a old super flat console style, so it actually is flat Nether, and there's just not a lot going on here besides my Nether village, and so I figured I could change this given that I have all of these blocks right here. Wouldn't it be fun if a part of my Nether was just a bit funkier than random blocks with a big wall between them, which is why I want to replace all of my netherrack with maybe something a bit more exciting. Because we can all agree the Nether would look really, really cool if you replaced all of these netherrack blocks with red stained glass so you could see through it. However, replacing all of these blocks by hand is impossible, and even doing so with a command will make you realize that there is a limit to how much Minecraft can do via commands, and on Bedrock there's no way to alter that. So when you try to do your big command, it says there's too many blocks. You're going to have to do this 32,000 at a time. And so every other time that I wanted to do this, I'll just manually do 32,000 blocks at a time. But for such a big section of the Nether, that's going to be near impossible, which is where the command block will come in. A command that I kind of learned recently is the execute run as command, where you can have a command block do something every single second, or every single microsecond if you want to, and it will, every single tick I guess technically, and it will run it as if it is you. And so here is a fun idea. And so we could take this command right here, scale it down a little bit, but then have it follow me around and watch as the world slowly turns to red stained glass. So let's do that. Now, when we do it, we have this magical block that can replace netherrack with red stained glass, except now, to go even more fun, oh look, there's actually some, you can see some ancient debris there, but interestingly enough, what we can now do is we can set this same command to run and follow me around by using the /execute command. We tell the execute command to run this as me, and then we tell it specifically what command we want, and then we set the command block to be a repeating one. Sorry, I have to execute it at me, not as me. If we do that now, what happens is when I run around the world, slowly but surely, it replaces it with red stained glass. This is incredibly powerful compared to the techniques I've been using before, and it's also incredibly cool to fly around the world and watch as it slowly all becomes red stained glass. And so now all I have to do is a little bit of a fly around. Oh, it's so fun to watch. And then all of a sudden, we have a world that looks something like this. Incredibly futuristic if you ask me, and yeah, it still keeps on going. It's just incredible to go through netherrack caves that look like this because they're so much harder to spot. Your eyes are immediately drawn to all of the ores, but you just have no clue where these caves are going to go or if they're going to go anywhere at all. Indeed, this has resulted in a little bit of a side effect of all of my lava starting to spill, but other than that, I think this is looking wonderful. Especially since I can probably just fix most of these issues by replacing them with orange stained glass, as indeed I intend to do. Wow, every big problem has been solved, and now we have an insane looking corner of the Nether, huh? I'm going to leave this command block turned off, but I will leave it here in case anyone ever downloads the worlds and wants to have some fun with that. It is a thing that I'll leave around because, yeah, it is a wild thing to look at the Nether. It looks like it's now like a slime Nether, like it's a big living slime that's just absorbed a bunch of ores here and there. It's also a really cool way to look around and see where the ancient debris is, right? And so I like it on that level, but you know what else I like on this level? Things in the overworld, because I've had a silly idea for a while. Wait, you know, I think this whole series is silly ideas I've had for a while, but I've had a particularly silly one. Because just like anyone else who has an iron golem farm, I use it for poppies, but I end up with all of this iron as a byproduct that means I functionally have as much iron as I could ever want, with the only limiting factor being the time I'm going to spend to build it. And so I thought, what could I do with all of these iron blocks? Well, the logical thing, being that most people have iron farms somewhat near a village, is what if we could convert an entire place into iron blocks? I don't want to actually do this in my survival world because because it just feels a bit tacky. But if I was going to try an idea that I shouldn't try in survival, this would be the place for it, and this would be the perfect village. It's an entire island with 2 villages, which logically would mean you get double the iron blocks. And so the exact same thing happens here, but with iron blocks and grass blocks. So let's go. I have made a mistake somewhere apparently. Oh no, it was the grass. The iron block is called iron_block, but grass blocks are called grass, which means when we do that, all of a sudden we start to get exactly what we're going for. And at this point, we should probably remove that command output specifically for this reason. But as you can see, it is fairly satisfying. It really is absolutely wild to watch this just kind of appear block by block in there, but it is something that you can do to have something that follows you. This is a project that you would spend days AFKing, and the end result is that it just looks a little bit like a snowy forest biome without the snowy trees. And so, honestly, can't say I'm a huge fan of this. Glad I didn't spend all of those weeks in survival. See how this video series is useful to me? Speaking of things that are useful to me, did you know you can subscribe to the channel to see more weird things like this? This is just one of a series of weird things I shouldn't build in survival. I think we started at 5, and we've been working our way up slowly since then. And speaking of things, which by the way, this is the 5th one from this video, so you've got much more to come like this next dumb idea. When it comes to weird things you're going to see in the rest of the video, let me assure you some of the best is yet to come, but what is coming next is maybe best only by my own definition, because are you familiar with the concept of the half monster, half man? We have so many of these around the world as a symbolism of how humans slowly become monsters, but in my world all I have are monsters and men. And what if we could somehow combine these two things together? So we find the exact area the polar bear is on, and we save it, export it as a polar bear, do the same to our person's skin, then we load it into a different part of the world, as you can see right here with my panda, and then we go just below the head, import our top half of Ocelot, and see what that does. Oh, we need to offset this so it actually works correctly. So -5 blocks on the Z should do it, although, you know, just to be perfect, we'll go like -9 or so, -8, make it barely overlap. And so if we do this correctly, and I have no guarantee we just did, what should happen is, oh no, it's facing the wrong way. The idea was really solid though, right? I mean, the idea is great. If we just judge me solely on that, I think we've nailed this one. Okay, let's try that again. And there we go! Look at it! I have myself a half panda, half ocelot. Has science come too far? Is this a sign that the series has probably done a few things it shouldn't? I think so. But I clearly don't need to stop there. What if we tried the same, but with a warden for the bottom? I mean, clearly I did such a good job here that I should be trusted to try again, and so let's do it. Okay, next, here is my warden, and now we're gonna try and get a toy cat face on top of him. Whether that works or not is a different question, which can be answered as it looks like I am an ocelot inside of a warden costume right now, which is almost what we want here, right? That is almost the exact hybrid we are going for, just with this weird back sort of thing. Honestly, not terrible all things considered, but definitely not a half toy cat, half, warden hybrid. And the same with the panda bear. It's not quite a real hybrid, and so we've got one chance left to salvage this entire thing, and it obviously comes with the polar bear. So I'm placing a dirt block in the middle of nowhere, and then I'm going to load in my polar bear, hopefully. Yeah, nailed that. Okay, so as you can see right here, it's very far into the body that this will start. So we want to offset on the Z axis by about 5 blocks. I think about -5 blocks, I mean. Maybe even more, actually. Negative, like, 8. And that way, well, actually, no, we're going to have 7, specifically so that it actually blends pretty smoothly, which I forgot to rotate it. Oh, no. I had a really good idea here somewhere, but I think I messed it up. And just like that, I have finished covering up my mistake. As you can see, this is clearly a half toy cat, half polar bear hybrid that, okay, this is terrible. I'm gonna pretend I didn't do these last 2 examples and say that this is clearly proof that I could do much better, but oh, what's that? There's no time left to talk about half human, half animal hybrids? Wow, am I sounding a bit too Alex Jones right now when I say that? Well, clearly that means that I need to move on to something much more fun, and instead of sounding like, some concerning news is coming out of China, how about I tell you the very much unconcerning news coming out of Japan, because I love Sonic Adventure, it's one of my favorite game series from the Dreamcast, and I love Pumpkin Hill, a level where Knuckles is, honestly, the level itself, who can picture, but the idea of Pumpkin Hill is fun, right? The point is to say, I've always thought the idea of Pumpkin Mountains is a really fun one because, pumpkins are so rare in a Minecraft world, they're actually rarer than diamonds, is one of those weird counterintuitive facts, and so why not make an entire pumpkin biome? And so this is my Pumpkin Hill, as you can see, very beautiful. I actually like this as a biome choice. I might want to build around with pumpkins. However, a fun thing that you're going to need, you can't just say it's a pumpkin hill covered in pumpkins. You need to have something that really represents that. So let's have some pumpkins growing here. If you want to have this work correctly, you're gonna stand on the outside of the block, and then there we go. Look at that, we've got a pumpkin stem, and it's basically magically grown. And so now we need to attach this to a full pumpkin, but because this is me and this is my channel, it's obviously going to be a silly sized pumpkin. Wait, no, we need to bone mill these first, and then let the crops grow, but they're not gonna grow without higher tick speed, so we're gonna turn that right up to 100, magically have them grow some pumpkins in the only available slot, which is right over here, I think. There we go. Oh. So interestingly, increasing the tick speed still gives you really, really slow pumpkins in a way I wouldn't have expected. But now you can see, looking at this, as soon as the second one goes in, it will complete my giant pumpkin. And it did. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? You can have a giant pumpkin made up off the, and it'll look like it's growing from the stem because, yeah, I just have some super high quality bone meal here. This is such a silly idea, but I really do like it. And you can do it with melons as well if you want to, because they have the exact same rules. However, something that I always get thinking to whenever I'm up in these extreme hills is not how can I make more silly things with pumpkins. Instead, it's something more along the lines of how tall can you even make a mountain? This mountain goes all the way up to 242 blocks, and obviously everyone knows the height limit is 320, which, by the way, to really reiterate how high that is, we are already towering above the rest of the world. This is some amplified terrain that I've kind of imported into my creative world. It's already so high up. It looks something like this if you're curious, which is intense because you can have a mountain with a view this steep over the surrounding area, except actually the tallest mountain is not just going up to 320 blocks, it's based on the distance between it and the surrounding mountains. When you're on top of a mountain peak that is surrounded by just other mountains, it never really looks that high because you're not really going that far down from it. This doesn't look like it's so steep because it's surrounded on all sides by mountain, and so what if it was surrounded on all sides by incredible big voids? Well, that's the question we obviously have to answer. Okay, so can we agree that this is now a mountain? Unlike that, which was a floating platform, you can see that this connects all the way down to the base, and it looks incredibly tall from here already, but consider that this is on one side where it connects to Y100 terrain. On this side, it goes all the way down to Y0 and looks incredibly tall, except wait a minute, because of the height limit go down to Y-64, if we wanted to, we can make this mountain even taller. And I'm gonna do that by making this trench between my separate chunks go all the way down past Bedrock, just so I have something down at this layer in my creative world. I love to have weird little creative permutations, and that is going to include some terrain that goes right here in a straight line along the negative Z diagonal. And so let's see what that looks like. Am I the only one who listens to Other Side in the shower? I hope I'm not the only one. I keep mentioning it in videos. And people are, no one goes, yeah, Toy Cat, I know what you mean. I listen to Minecraft music in my showers too. And I'm starting to make me, it's starting to make me think like I'm the only one who likes jamming some pig step in there. Anyway, the point is to say is that this is now going to have a big bedrock connector between these two layers, which we can easily use as our barometer of the tallest mountain. So let's see how it looks. And all of a sudden, I've got massively increased height terrain. In fact, 64 blocks doesn't sound like that many, so you have to fly up them. Literally, I'm flying up them and it's taking me this long, which makes me then think, how tall will my mountain look by comparison? Well, from down here, certainly we can say, like, yeah, this is about as ridiculously tall as you can imagine a wall being. I mean, you can't even see the top from here. I think if I get my spyglass out, you can just about understand that there is a top there. Okay, I've teleported myself up here because I can't deal with the flight, and you can see just how ridiculously tall it looks. You can also see, looking down here, that it's just so impossibly far away that even with a spyglass, it still looks ridiculous. But the easiest way to show you just how far it is the classic test, which is the fun jump off it and see how long it takes. So anyway, in case you're curious, the weather's been really good here recently. It's been a lot of rain, but I don't really mind seeing that sort of weather, and wow, I forgot to put keep inventory on. That is a valuable lesson for the future in survival death tests, huh? But anyway, speaking of things that are important lessons to learn for the future, I think it's important to talk about how there are some very, very big projects that I like to imagine I'm never going to actually do in survival, but sometimes using creative is a great way to aid what you're doing in survival, or an aid to show how much work it's actually going to be. And so you might be familiar with my big Never tunnel. It was my most recent live stream before this current little break that I'm on, going on some stuff. But in my most recent live stream, I've been working on the Netherrack tunnel so I can get enough Netherrack to build a Nether in the overworld. I need hundreds of thousands of Netherrack, and at a certain point, saying you need large numbers just doesn't really make any sense. But actually showed the number of blocks required to reach various milestones in Minecraft in a more physical sense. Everybody loves the whole, oh yeah, if you had $1 trillion, it looked like this physically, because money is surprisingly dense in weird ways, and so maybe you'll enjoy the same for Minecraft blocks, because being rich in Netherrack is basically the same as having $1 trillion, and so to prove that, here is what one single Netherrack block looks like. I don't think I need to explain that one, but this is 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter, and then if you have an entire stack of these, you'll notice that interestingly, even though there's 64 times more, it actually cubes together in a really interesting way, because 64 blocks can be an 8 by 8 square if you want it to be, or a 4 by 4 cube, because this is what 4 cube means. It is 4 blocks by 4 blocks on each of the sides. If you take 64 blocks and you build them into a cube, it will look something like this, because each layer of this uses 16 blocks, and there are 4 layers to make up the whole cube. Counterintuitive facts maybe, but that means that even though there are 64 times as many, the nature of cubic volume means that you actually don't see that 64 times as many very clearly, but you can probably tell it's a lot more effort to move that around than that, right? However, the next level up is to then go for a shulker box full of Netherrack. That creates an amount of Netherrack this big. You would need to mine a cube this size on all dimensions, 12 by 12 by 12. It's a perfect cube, by the way, which is surprising, but you need to mine a block that big on all dimensions if you wanted to get a full shulker box full of resources. Bear in mind, we deal in shulker boxes about, 10 to 12 at a time. But if you wanted to have a double chest, which is then full of shulker boxes itself, well then what would the answer to this be? If all of these were filled with Netherrack all the way through, how much would that be in terms of a cube? Well, fun fact, I don't know right now. I'm gonna work it out. Well, that would be 93,312 blocks, or a cube that is 45.3 blocks wide. In other words, it's 45 blocks wide and then has a bunch of extra blocks just kind of strewn in there. That is the size of a full double chest worth of shulker boxes. If you can get that number of blocks in survival, you should feel pretty darn proud. It's crazy. When you look at a shulker box, you don't really think of it as being this many blocks. When you look at a chest full of shulker boxes, you just think to yourself, yeah, that's resources that have been gathered, but it's actually ridiculous if you do that in survival, and so you should feel proud. But certainly, for anything besides Netherrack, I won't be doing it anytime soon. I'm slowly getting there with Deep Slate just by doing my weird mining trips and picking up copper, something I'm certainly not proud of because no one needs this many blocks of any type, I don't think, especially not Deep Slate. However, something you might need in your world, besides clouds that render through water, ooh, that's weird, huh? Is an end to the pits of lava that you'll be finding there. Seriously, something I've considered so many times is just going into my Nether and removing all of the lava by filling it with gravel and then removing the gravel and getting myself a ton of flint in the process, but then I work out, do I really want flint? And indeed, I don't have enough sand to do it that way, so I just conclude this is actually ridiculous. I'm glad I'm not going to. However, even though this is a project that would take genuinely several dozens of hours to do in survival by myself, it's easy to do using the same block that I had from before, where instead of replacing Netherrack with glass, we literally just changed the exact same 2 commands to say, air replace, I guess, lava, or we could go a step even more fun and we could replace it with water. You know, actually, I like that idea more. Let's go ahead and replace it with water, because even in the real world, you can't do that no matter what you want to do, but using... Oh, we've got to flip the switch too. But using the power of commands, we totally can do. Oh, God. Okay, so we're going to create a lot of obsidian by accident here. But we're making something quite beautiful, I think. So, honestly, seems kind of worth it, right? Although, again, maybe your mileage may vary on whether you think this is a good thing or one of the worst atrocities ever. I think it's a fun addition to the glass side of the Nether, but I think, oh God, I think ultimately we're probably better off doing this, but with air. Seriously, if in your world you don't have one of these things lying around, I'm incredibly envious of you. Look at this right here. We got a huge patch of lava, and I'm too far away from the block. But you get the point, being able to just instantly have lava vanish rather than creating things like this, which, by the way, no longer a problem. Look at that, magically vanishing away. I think it's so cool what you can do with commands in Minecraft, and indeed, this series is mostly about satisfying my weird survival curiosity, but I hope that it teaches you a few things about how you can do some weird command stuff. This is indeed a lot of what I will use. Okay, so we're too far. Oh, it vanished too. Indeed, this is a lot of what I use when I'm making maps like the recently released Ultra Flat Survival Update. It's available on the marketplace right now, and if you would like, you can go check it out. It has all of the 1.20 features and represents the ultimate super flat survival experience. If you've ever played a weird Minecraft world and you want to take that to the next level, I think Ultra Flat's new update is a great way to have the best super flat style experience. Challenge yourself in the most ridiculous way possible, because as fun as it is to build something in creative that takes 5 seconds, it's much more fun to challenge yourself in survival, and that's why I always do so. Anyway, speaking of things that I always do, at the end of my videos, I say thank you for watching. I sometimes plug the merch available at ibxtoycat.merch. No, wait, ibxtoycat.store. And what I also do is I say that I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I also hope that I'll see you in the next one, because I enjoy this series a lot, and clearly, if we're on 12 builds you shouldn't make, at some point 13's gonna have to come, if only for unluckiness reasons, and then maybe it does so terribly we end the series. But the point is to say, I hope you'll enjoy this video. I will see you in the next one, unless I don't. Goodbye.